Welcome to the channel's book club. Mrs. Modupe Adenubi is a veteran creative writer and award-winning author, while Sarah Dale is a German writer and filmmaker. When the two ladies sat together to discuss cross-cultural issues related to literature, writing, and creativity, there was a lot to learn and enjoy. In this episode, we'll be showing you how that chat went.
The Ake Book Festival is coming up in November, the 19th to the 24th. Authors, musicians, poets, filmmakers, actors and actresses, lots of authors coming from outside the country, but also a lot of local authors, a lot of homegrown talent.
We want to bring in a German author called Dina Hoeven.
Not only to sort of get to showcase yourself as a publisher, but it's also an opportunity to, for your authors, to showcase themselves as well and their work.
We've been invited by Lola to get the writers to dance, to shake.
The book culture is emerging, and we should also have other things that help to define that whole ecosystem.
Come and you will have a ball. You will have the time of your life.
Hello, Sarah Dale.
Yes.
You are from Berlin, Germany. You've been in Nigeria how long?
For 1 month now.
1 month. What do you think of Nigeria?
Well, I really do love it because I have the feeling that I really chose the right place to research the things I want to research. My interest, especially right now, is to stay more time in African bigger cities, to explore urban life in African countries. I mean, especially sub-Saharan African countries, because this is something where I come from in Germany that a lot of people don't really know about. Like they still like kind of connect Africa to kind of like wildlife and conflicts and development aid, but they don't really have a complex understanding of the life in Africa, of the daily life in Africa. And this is something that I wanted to just learn about more, and this is why I wanted to stay always 1 month in a bigger African city. Like before, I've been in Nairobi and in Kampala and in Harare and in Cape Town, and now I'm here in Lagos for 1 month. And I was really, really happy that I chose Lagos because I have the feeling a lot of things that I learned in other places is all here. It's all in a very complex way. It's all represented here.
Like what?
Well, for example, the differences between the people who come here from the rural areas, who survive. The harsh differences or separations between classes I find very, very intriguing, between poor and rich people, which is very much something that kind of shapes the whole city also. It's kind of also a worrying thing I find, Then also the huge numbers of people who are very creative, who are very inspiring, people who do all sorts of things about art, writing, cinema, visual arts, and there's so much going on here, and also but it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm not just talking about that I'm interested in people who do art. I mean, it's no matter what you do here, you are kind of an entrepreneur, I feel,
Very
and
good.
this is
You found out about Nigerians in Lagos.
Yeah.
And you've met Nigerians that are from different parts of the country, not
Yeah.
just in Lagos.
Yeah.
Now you are collecting all this information and experiences because you're going to write a book.
A novel, a fiction novel.
A fiction novel.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe to explain the whole context, the novel
Okay.
I wrote, the first novel I published last year
Yes.
was about, because I'm German, it was about an Israeli family coming to Germany.
Okay.
Because I wanted to explore the situation where actually Germans meet Jewish people and actually really encounter themselves also in a daily life setting, because a lot of Germans don't really know so much about Jewish daily life or, for example, daily life in Israel, because they just have a lot of cliches about Israelis in their head, because there are not so many Jewish people actually who still live in Germany after the Second World War, after the Holocaust. So it is also, something that connects my previous novel and my novel that I'm writing now, is this like cliches, the stereotypes we have in our heads, and what actually happens when we meet each other. So in my first novel it was about the encounter between like Germans and Jews in recent times. And now I want to explore what actually happens when white people are coming to Africa and they all have these like stereotypes in their head, and what happens when they actually are exposed to the daily life here. This is what I want to explore.
What stereotypes did you have about Africa yourself before you came here?
Well, I try to be very open, to whatever I would encounter, but I can say from a childhood on, of course I had like romantic ideas about wildlife, but then on the other hand, like also really like brutal, images of like war and crisis and hunger and conflict. I think these are kind of everything that Germans know about Africa kind of goes back and forth between like these kind of images, So which is not a very complex idea of Africa, right?
No.
It's like a very one-sided way,
Yes.
And I even feel like when I talk with people, even like my friends, like they don't really know anything about African countries. So what I realized is that I feel like a lot of Europeans or like white people who come to Lagos, they don't really want to know the complexity. They don't really want to learn about the complexity of their life here. They want to kind of stick with all the cliches about how dangerous it is, etc. And they don't really explore. They don't really go out to explore, and I find this very sad. And I felt myself I have to overcome a lot of like fears that were like put in my head when I came to Lagos. How dangerous it is, and I cannot go there. I cannot go there. Because I would be robbed and etc. All these things you hear.
Have you been robbed?
Not at all. and I just really had, and even so I was like at night out, and I was like going out a lot, also in Ikeja, so nothing happened to me, but really, really beautiful encounters, like I felt all the people are super helpful. Also, like yesterday I had to find my way from like Isolo to Ikeja with Danfos, and I had to take like 4 different
You got
Danfos.
on Danfos?
Yeah. But it was so nice, and everybody was like helping me, explaining me exactly where to go, and it, it just works. This is how people help each other here.
That's good.
So I just had the best encounters here, and I'm really, really happy I came here. And I just find it so sad that like people are so trapped in these like stereotypes they hear about this place, and they want to kind of, as if they kind of enjoy telling each other how dangerous it is. Maybe because they want to tell each other that they kind of survived an adventure or something like this. You know what I mean?
Have you met many who have lived here for a long, long time?
Yeah, I met a lot of Lagosians, as they call it themselves. Like
they
people
call
who actually.
themselves Lagosians. I'm talking of the whites now.
Ah.
They call themselves Lagosians.
No, they don't. They don't.
No, okay.
But like actually, like
Yes.
Nigerians who've been born here. I realized that they call themselves Lagosians.
Yes.
I met some like white people who are here for like 30 years.
Yes.
But they were also very honest, about how one-sided they see the city, because they stick to their bubble,
Okay. Well, they know why they see it as one-sided.
Yeah, and
Why they are keeping the stereotype.
well, I guess the fear just prevailed in a way, The fear was just stronger than their like sense of exploration. Maybe.
Is there a way we can disabuse the minds of these fears? Can you think of any way?
Well, maybe this is something that I would like to do, to like
Explore in your book.
explore in my book,
Very
and to
good.
just show a lot of different characters, to really get an understanding how complex the city is, and how people create their daily lives in these difficulties that Lagos is. Lagos is not a very relaxing place as long as you don't stay home. It's just, I just feel it's like full of life,
So
and
where are the places you have been to that are helping you change your mind about what you had heard about Lagos? Or
well, just because I
Nigeria?
really exposed myself to all the different, places I went. Isolo, Ikeja, Surulere. They're not like, they're just simply places on the mainland where, normal people live, and just being there, I just walk down the street and you realize immediately what you had in your head is not what you see here, you know, and that's all you need. I mean, you just have to walk down the street, talk to people, you know, have a coffee here, and then breathe. Yeah, and
what are the differences that you have noticed between Lagos, for instance, and Berlin? What are the major differences?
I think I focus actually more on the similarities than on differences, you know. So sometimes it's hard for me to.
Okay. Why don't you then, tell me the similarities then? What you have found?
Well, we're all human beings who try to survive, you know. And I think I like to see human beings like that. I mean, I think people are just too individual to just focus on like this is the way how people deal with the situation, you know, like it's just too different, but different for every human being. It's not different just for Berlin or for Lagos, you know. And I guess I just want to understand this, you know. I mean, what I really liked is to hear stories how people appropriate certain situations that I can relate to. And there was this one lady, and she talked about that she uses the time she's stuck in traffic jam to write.
That's right.
And I just find it fascinating also how people, you know, use the traffic jam to do groceries, you know, because there's so many street vendors who then have like, you know, milk and, you know, food, water, you know, but also other items like watches, you know, that you can buy while you are stuck in traffic. And I think it's just brilliant, you know, so you make use of your time, yeah, but also make use of the writing. And this is also what I said before, what I really like so much, that these women who have children, you know, who have to go to work, they use the traffic jam to write because they have to make space, you know, they have to find these little spaces they can find to write, to be creative for themselves. And this is just, that I found really like a beautiful, yeah, story to understand how people appropriate
to write.
The city. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You have another passion that you mentioned at the meeting. Why don't you talk about that?
Okay. So I also make documentary films on one certain issue.
Yes.
Because I encountered, like some years ago, you know, I just saw like numbers from the World Health Organization. How many women still are dying or get really sick because they don't have access to a safe abortion. So they organize or like make abortions themselves, you know, with like bleach, with detergent, with knitting needles and things like that. So,
and they survive it or they die?
Well, a lot of women die, and some women who survive still have infections or get sick for the rest of their lives or get infertile, you know, so it really has a very bad impact. And I think this whole topic about abortion is a topic a lot of people don't want to talk about because it's very stigmatized. But it is still something.
Universally?
I think universally, but I also encounter in a country like Nigeria where it's still illegal and where also like you have certain, especially religious views on it. It's really hard to talk about it from a woman's perspective. You know, to really talk about the life reality of women who actually have this problem, who don't have access to contraceptives, or where contraceptives is too expensive, you know, or they don't have the knowledge how to use it or how to get it, or they feel ashamed to ask for it, you know. I mean, there are a lot of different reasons why women don't have proper access to contraceptives or sex education altogether. So I think this is just like a topic a lot of women are exposed to, but they don't get the information because we are all too shy to talk about it. And I think this is a problem when we hide away topics like that. So
but you have made films of this?
I made documentary films about it, and now I work on a documentary film where I want to focus on like activists in Nigeria and in other countries where abortion is still illegal, who just address the topic, you know, and really want to get information to women so women's life can be saved, you know. It's not about saying that abortion is like a good thing to do, you know. It's simply if a woman would do it, then she has to do it in a way that she doesn't die. You know, it's also about like giving her other options, you know, but it's simply like getting the word out that women are in a position that they can talk about this issue at all.
Food for thought. I don't think any individual can actually say, that's what I will do in the circumstance.
Exactly.
Until you actually find yourself in that situation.
Exactly. I met so many women who said like they could never have an abortion, but then they ended up in a situation where they had one, you know, because
maybe they were raped.
maybe they were raped, yeah, or maybe they were just like, also like in an abusive relationship they needed to get away from, like there are thousands of like, situations, and I think only the woman who is in the situation and has to take the consequences and has to live the consequences should be in in the position to make the decision,
Yes.
because nobody else can really understand her
Yes,
problems.
yes. A number of these issues, you see, those of us who are not involved readily give our own opinions and, like take stands. But when we find ourselves in those situations, we probably wouldn't take our own medicine. We don't know until we find
don't know.
ourselves in
That's true.
situation.
But,
I
this
think
is
we should realize that.
That's true.
More
But this is
often
also
than
something
we
that
do,
yeah.
because we're always pointing fingers. That's wrong. Shouldn't be done.
That's right. But this is also the power of storytelling, as you know, also in your work.
Yes.
It is so important to like tell the story of women's lives,
Yes.
because this is underrepresented in a lot of contexts. So people get a better understanding about what women have to go through, what women actually need.
We talk sometimes that if in a family, husband and wife deliver the babies, maybe the wife first, the next baby will come from the man, you are not going to get, and maybe you get a third one, but you're not getting a fourth one, because the man will not go through it. He's had it once and the experience wasn't too pleasant. I think if you find yourself going through what the woman is going through, you'll be in a better position to say you are right doing what you've done, or you are wrong doing what you've done.
That's right.
I think that's how we should look at it. So,
Right.
how much longer are you going to be in Lagos?
Only 5 more days.
Oh,
and
5
my
more
heart
days.
is bleeding, I have to say,
Oh.
because I would like, I definitely want to come back.
Yeah, come back. You
Because
must
it's
come back.
especially because I met also like wonderful women like you, in this today's meeting. Oh yeah.
That's very nice of you.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So I want to continue this kind of friendship and this kind of exchange, that we're having right now.
That's good. You see, it's so important that we should all come together and see each other as one. My needs are your needs. My wants are your wants. And once you realize that both of us share these kinds of things, very few differences. It's interesting that you were not eager to comment on differences. You were more interested in talking about similarities, because that's really what is important.
Yeah.
So our differences are, those who have studied DNA tell us that the differences between us, all human beings, the differences only make about 1.5%, whereas the similarities are enormous.
Yeah.
And we should perhaps focus more on those and not talk of the shape of your nose, color of your hair, even the shape. If you are fat or you're thin, we shouldn't focus on those. We should focus on, the
Where we
Easterners
can
say,
connect.
Namaste. The God in me salutes the God in you. Even though I am the leper, you are the king, you will turn to me and say, the God in me salutes the God in you. Namaste. And that's how we should see each other.
Exactly.
With respect.
Yeah. I
That's good.
agree. It was very nice to talk to
Thank you
you.
very much. Come again.
I will.
When you were in Abuja, you used to host Infusion. It was a highly successful literary festival. What happened to it? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
I started Infusion with Dapo Oyewole. We just had that bright idea after I moved to Abuja from the UK in July 2009. He said, let's start something. There are people out there who want to read, and there's just no culture in Abuja. And I said, oh, all right, let's do it. So he of course is a special advisor now to one of the ministers. So he kind of dropped off the wagon, after about a year and a half, and I kind of ran it on my own. But for 2.5 years, that's what we were doing, inviting authors, poets, musicians, performers, comedians to, last Thursday of every month. That was in many ways, in terms of, for anyone looking for culture, Infusion was the place to be. Then I had to move to the Southwest because my husband got a job in the Southwest, and he wanted us to move down, and I agreed. So I kind of moved down with my 4 kids. And that was the end of Infusion. I did try to see if other people could take it over. But those things are so difficult to organize. I was doing everything by myself, you know, the e-posters, maintaining the mailing list, everything. And, you know, I don't know that anybody wants to take that kind of work on. I was doing that along with looking after my kids, maintaining a full-time job. But now that I've been here, having attended quite a number of literary festivals last year, I decided, you know what, there's a big dream that I've had for many years, which is to have a very big book festival. And then I started putting it together in my mind. I'd go to all these festivals, I'd ask some of the authors, would you come to Nigeria for a book festival? You know, and the response has been really positive. So that's going to happen now in November 19 to 24. It's called the Ake Book Festival. It's taking place in Abeokuta, in the lush hills of Ogun State. And you know, and under the rocks and everything. So I'm very excited about that, you know, every day talking to new authors, you know, some of them contact me, I hear you're doing this, could I come? But also we're making it a very broad, and we want it to be appealing to the general public in many ways, the way that the Edinburgh Festival is. So we're gonna have film, we're gonna have fiction, we're gonna have poetry, we're gonna have audio, you know, talks. We're going to have masterclasses for people who want to do journalism, life writing, fiction, poetry. So we've got lots of really accomplished authors.
Let me quote you from an interview you had a while back. You said, a reading nation is a thinking nation. What was running through your mind when you said that?
There's a whole world out there of people who are uneducated, who are likely to go on to be unskilled, will not be able to be of any real use to society, will find themselves in a situation where they're just like driftwood. And therefore, you know, automatically and quite understandably, in looking for some means of livelihood, there are possibilities that they'll turn to means that are, you know, not the positive ones that we want. And it's shocking. So even there, I don't want it to sound like everything's hunky-dory, even in the UK. I worked within my borough when I was in Hammersmith and Fulham. We had a very big, comprehensive literacy program on. Within every school, there's a literacy program. Even though you're doing English, you're doing maths, there's still a literacy program, which every teacher has to be involved in. So there was that. Why would that exist if they didn't see that there was a problem? But also, they had some really incredible ways of improving the reading culture. And I remember when I was working at Homer Green, which is near Wickham, not in London. The government, the borough had this thing where they would go to all the new students in secondary school and send them a little catalogue, and they would have to choose a book, and the book would arrive 2 weeks later wrapped up, just looking like a beautiful Christmas present. And I can't tell you how many kids would come up to me, because I was an English teacher, and I would really encourage them, ask them all the time, that book, you know, you got, where are you now, what page? You know, just generally be on their case as far as how much they read. And many of them would read and come and say, Miss, that's the first time I've ever read a full, you know, a whole book on my own, you know? So, of course, again, you find that would happen with certain, you know, it wouldn't necessarily be just the white ones, especially in a place like Homer Green, but it was largely the non-white community who perhaps weren't doing enough on their own to engage the children with books. But even in the UK, massive campaigns to improve the reading culture and to encourage people to read. We have such a long way to go. We need to start now.
The Ake Book Festival is coming up in November, the 19th to the 24th. Authors, musicians, poets, filmmakers, actors and actresses, lots of authors coming from outside the country, but also a lot of local authors, a lot of homegrown talent.
Not only to sort of get to showcase yourself as a publisher, but it's also an opportunity to, for your authors, to showcase themselves as well and their work.
We've been invited by Lola to get the writers to dance, to shake.
The book culture is emerging, and we should also have others that help to define that.
Come and you will have a ball. You will have the time of your life.
I hope you enjoyed that. We'll be happy to hear from you through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.